where right now Dr. Grace is up out of Boston and Washington, D.C. Dr. Grace is the culture and politics editor of the World Tribune and a dear friend of mine. She's also the host of American Heartland with Dr. Grace. She has been a correspondent to Freedom Friday for many, many years, and she is dear to me. And Dr. Grace, God bless you. Glad you're on today. Listen, the Trump is sounding. The trumpets are blowing. The Trump in America is sounding, and he is slapping people down left and right. What do you think about Donald the Trump?
Well, look, this week he had another brilliant week, and his poll numbers continue to go up as a result. This week he signed the pledge that the Republican chairman, Reince Priebus, is trying to get everybody to sign.
Yeah, I saw that.
And that pledge is that if he should lose, he is not going to run as an independent. He's not going to run outside of the Republican fold. And so this week, Donald Trump signed the pledge. Remember that at the Fox News debate, he was the only one who raised his hand and said at the time he wasn't ready to sign.
Yes, I do remember. Mm-hmm.
Right. So he signed it, and he did it with a lot of flair, a lot of fanfare. He got the press to cover that moment. And, Carl, I think it's an absolutely brilliant move. Right now, he's at the top of the GOP polls. And you know that I was one of those people that criticized him for his refusal to say that he was remember during the Fox News debate, I said he made a big mistake. He should not have said that he was disavowing a third-party run. I thought he should have said clearly and forthrightly, I'm running as a Republican, I'm a team player, I'm going to support whoever the nominee is. I thought when he didn't do that, it was a huge mistake, and I remember sounding off on that on your show as well as on my own.
Yeah, I remember us talking about it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think he did the right thing now, because he would have been excluded from the ballot in many different states for the refusal to take a pledge like this. And he was also going to be seen as an egotist, as possibly a sore loser. If I don't win, well, I don't play ball with the GOP. That's just un-American. It's just not fair. It's not playing by the rules. It's being a sourpuss, right?
Right.
So I think that it was a master stroke to go ahead and sign the pledge, and he really has nothing to lose because it's not legally binding. So right now, what does a pledge like this do? Well, it forces other Republican candidates to come forward and say and admit that if he's the GOP nominee, they have to support him. So Jeb Bush had to come out and say, if you're the nominee, I will support you, as have others. So it basically forces others to capitulate to this insurgent within the Republican Party.
Yeah, that's a great point, Grace. That's a great point. Go ahead.
Yeah, because what's happened within the Republican Party now is you have four insurgents who are at the top of the polls. It's Trump, Carson, Fiorina, and Cruz. And they're all anti-Republican establishment types. So by doing this, it's not just that Trump pledges to remain within the GOP, but also everybody else is forced to capitulate and say, if one of the insurgents wins, we are not going to divide the party. We're not going to splinter. We're going to keep the party united. So it's a really, really good move for Trump, and it's a very good move for the party because, we're having this, let's call it a civil war within the party, right? It's a civil war right now.
Yeah.
But we really do, at the end of the day, have to unite. And I think it's very important for all the voters to see that there will be unity at the end so we can fight the real enemy, not one another, but fight the real enemy, which is whoever the Democratic nominee is going to be.
Yeah.
And you know what, Carl? I think for a lot of folks like me who really were upset at Trump for not being a team player, it goes a long way that he took the pledge, even if it's not legally binding. So it was a really good move.
Yeah. Well, and you know what he can do, and I know Donald Trump listens to this program, so I'm just going to tell you, Donald, look, if by chance later on you decide that you do need to run, let's say you don't get the Republican nominee and you want to run as an independent, all you have to do is say that you have evolved. Right? I mean, that's what Biden did. That's what Obama does. That's what Hillary Clinton. Well, I've evolved. I've just evolved on this matter. And, I know what I said. I know what I promised. I know the pledge I signed. I mean, this is a la Obama and all those guys when they were running saying, oh, no, we believe marriage is between a man and a woman. No, we'll support marriage, man and a woman. Well, you know what? I've evolved. I've changed my mind. So, Donald, if you're listening, there's a little game plan for you. I'm kind of tongue-in-cheek here, Dr. Grace, but I'm
well,
so sick of all the lying. Go ahead.
Yeah, the lying is disgusting. And he said, when he was pressed by some of the reporters there, is there any circumstance by which you would possibly change your mind? And he said, no, there isn't. But you know what? Behind the scenes, I'm sure they've considered every scenario. And one of the scenarios is, look, even if he should fail, and he ultimately wants to run as an independent, you can always find a loophole. You can always find a way of phrasing it that, the process wasn't fair after all. You signed the pledge based on a fair process, et cetera, et cetera. You can always find a reason, a loophole. And that door is still open because this pledge is not legally binding. So it's a master stroke because it assuages a lot of his critics. It forces the others to say they have to accept him. And if he so wants, he's still free to do what he wants at the end of the day if he loses the nomination.
Yeah. Now let me ask: Are all the other candidates? Do they have to sign something like this too? The other ones. Okay.
Yes.
And so they have to support Donald Trump. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean they just, see? So if he wins, you're going to have a person like Jeb Bush who's going to be so ticked about it that he might just say, well, okay, I'm supporting him, but he might not do anything. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but what it does do, though, is that it prevents others from running against Trump. So let's say the insurgents win. It guarantees that the establishment won't say, well, we're going to splinter now from the Republican Party because it's being hijacked by the insurgents, you see?
Yeah. Well,
so, look, from the point of view of Reince Priebus, the RNC chairman, he really needed to get this done. I don't blame him. And he's been asked, what if somebody changes their mind? He said, listen, at this moment in time, I have to unify the party, and I've got to get everybody on board because the divisions are very strong in the party right now. But we have to have an agreement. We can fight it out in the primaries, but ultimately, we all have to come together at the end. So everybody's signing this.
Yeah. Well,
so Reince Priebus has to do it, and it's a big win for the Republican Party because right now, really, we have a clear shot at winning the presidency because the Democrats are in such disarray. So if we just get our act together, we can very easily get a Republican in there.
Well, the one thing I like about it is that I still have nightmares and visions of Ross Perot. You remember all that? And so, And I think that's what a lot of people thought Donald Trump was at first, but I think they believe he's for real now. He really wants to be president. He really wants to run. He really wants to win the office. He really doesn't want the Democrats to go back in. And so, I think those fears have been assuaged. But hey, let me ask you. So this signing of this kind of document, isn't that unprecedented? I mean, they've never done that before, have they?
I don't believe they have actually signed a document. They've just made public. I'd have to double check that, but it seems like a new thing. I know that they've been asked, and they've said they've had to state whether they would or not. Many candidates are typically asked that.
Yeah.
But the actual signing of a pledge, this seems new to me, but I would have to double check that fact.
Well, I think that whole philosophy was probably born because of what Ross Perot did. I mean, he literally put the Clintons in the White House.
Indeed. And you know what, though? Donald Trump's fears initially were that perhaps that he might be mistreated throughout the process, like knocked off some debates or, and so that's what he said. That's why he held out before capitulating and saying, I'm just going to be a part of the GOP. But I take him at his word in this sense, Trump. He said, this is the way to win. This is the strategy we need to put together to win. And I think he's 100% right. So I'm glad he came on board. And you know what, Trump, then, Carl, I am seeing Trump really evolve as a candidate. In that whole speech, he did a lot of things right. He then went on to say that what he wants to see is not just a sealed border and the undesirable illegals deported, but he also wants to have a big, fat, beautiful, open door for legal immigrants.
Yes.
And he went on for several sentences, several soaring, beautiful sentences, not just about what we don't want, right? But what we do want.
Yeah, I heard him.
And I think,
it was great.
You heard him? I thought it was outstanding.
Yeah.
I think it was the first time that he was able to just not be, say, a negative candidate, an anti, what we're against, but state positively in an inspiring vision what America is, what we've always known America to be. So he presented America as a welcoming country, a country that allows, let's say, students, brilliant students coming from all over the world who study here. And they should be given legal status to remain if they qualify, if they do everything right, if they apply, if they, we want those kinds of immigrants. And I think it was important, it's not just understood. He needs to state that because then it inoculates the party from appearing to be xenophobic and anti-foreigner. We're not anti-foreigner. We're not anti-immigrant. We simply are a nation of laws, and we do want to continue to be that grand America that has a big heart and an open door.
Right. No, I'm with you. I think you're dead on, Dr. Grace. Hey, listen, we're going to take a time out, and then we'll... Dr. Grace, two things I want you to address very quickly. So, Trump getting money from lobbyists, he said he's not going to do that. And then also we got Hillary and the email scandal and a lot of fallout going on. Tell us about all that. I'm going to hush and let you have the rest of the time.
All righty. So just to wrap up what we were talking about last segment, I think another brilliant thing that he did in the speech this week was that he basically said that he will continue not to take money from lobbyists because lobbyists or other donors, when they give you that money, they have control. He said, quite frankly, that he's been offered a ton of money. And he's tempted sometimes because he feels a little bit like a dunce where others are taking donor money and he isn't. But his Iowa audience that he asked the question to said, do not, and he's going to stick to that principle. And what he's doing very brilliantly, unlike Mitt Romney was the rich guy who seemed like the guy that benefits from the system. He's the rich guy who seems to be the one that's going to clean up the system. That's a master stroke, and he's got to stick to that. It was really well done.
Yes, I agree.
And on the other side of it, as Trump is soaring, Clinton continues to flounder. One analyst has said she's now in a death spiral. The news is bad every week for her. Now you have this IT guy, by the name of Brian Palliano. He's the one who set up the server in New York for her, that homebrew server. Yeah. And he is taking the fifth, Carl.
Oh, no. That's pretty bad. So he's basically kind of through the back door legal channel admitting that something stinks and he just doesn't want to talk about it because it could incriminate him. That's pretty bad.
It's really bad. So he took the fifth on the House Benghazi Committee, and now he's taking the fifth with the FBI.
Well, listen. We can get into the Kim Davis thing if you want. We don't have to, but I want to use this anecdotally. So Kim Davis, the Rowan County, Kentucky clerk who's in jail tonight because she believes marriage is between a man and a woman. Hillary Clinton tweeted today. Are you ready for this, Dr. Grace? You might already know this, but listen. Hillary Clinton tweeted. Now this is apropos to what you and I are talking about. Here's her tweet. Quote, "Marriage equality is the law of the land. Government officials should be held to their duty to uphold the law. End of story." Hillary Clinton said government officials should uphold the law. End of story. Hillary Clinton said that. You go ahead, Dr. Grace.
Oh, my. It's appalling. And you know what, Carl? I'm sure that in your line of work and many of your different various incarnations, you've called upon IT for help. I certainly have. The professor in the newsroom. I call the IT team, hey, I need help. And sometimes I need it, fast. Yeah. And those guys are really good. Now, you got to think about this. The Clintons are so sleazy that even this guy just working IT, he now has to get a lawyer. He's got he's dealing with the FBI. He's dealing with congressional committees. I mean, look at the sewage. Look at that. Can you imagine embroiling your IT folks in any kind of legal controversy? Yeah, no. I couldn't imagine doing that.
Not knowingly, not purposely, but they do know what they're doing. Yeah.
And so, that's going on. And at the same time, Cheryl Mills, her former chief of staff, she's called to testify in the House Benghazi Committee. She does, and she says with a straight face to this committee, we turned over everything. She was part of the process. Yeah. And then she was asked the question, well, wait a minute. We know that Sid Blumenthal gave us documents that were given to Hillary, and yet Hillary hadn't given us those documents. You hadn't given us those documents. So how can you say that you turned over everything? How can we believe you?
Right.
Essentially, Cheryl Mills is trying to cover up for the Clintons. She's been with them since the Clinton impeachment days. And throughout her testimony, there were holes revealed. She admitted that she participated in the Accountability Review Board document that was produced after Benghazi. As a government official, she shouldn't have been involved. It was supposed to be objective. And she admitted that she did. And this shows us that they can't even keep their lives and their stories straight.
Right. Absolutely amazing. Thank you for your excellent reporting and your tremendous opining, Dr. Grace. We love you. God bless you. And we'll see you next Friday.